Hey everyone, how's it going out there today? So, you know how so many of you use iTunes or Spotify or Bandcamp today? Well, back in the mid-90s and the early 90s, none of that existed. All we had was CDs. Now, CDs are still around, and they're fairly affordable these days. But I'll tell you, back in the early 90s, CDs, since they were like the new technology because they came out in the mid 80s, I'll tell you, not everybody could afford CDs, let alone a CD player. And so today on Retro Davo, I'm going to show you a great solution that Sega came up with to allow you not only to play great games, but to play CDs. So stay tuned. Welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the Sega CD. Possibly the coolest thing other than the Genesis Sega ever invented. And yes, I know it is an add-on for the Sega Genesis, but this is a really cool system, and I'm going to show you why. So, let's dive right into it. Okay, so here's the Sega Genesis Model 2, and this is the Sega CD. And this is the Model 2 Sega CD. And you just push the button to open it, and you close it with your hand. It's that simple. Now let's look how to hook it up. Okay, so you'll notice on the Sega Genesis, you got normally your power supply input, your video output. However, on the Sega CD, what do you see there? Stereo output. That's right. So, I'm going to show you how you can use this as your own stereo. Okay, so I've got the Genesis all hooked up, but what about the Sega CD? Well, I'm going to show you. Remember this cable that I was showing you? Well, we're only going to use the yellow end of the cable for the video, and that's going to go in there, in the video. But you're probably asking, well, what about the audio? It's a CD. How are you going to play it? Well, you're going to take an ordinary set of RCA cables. Doesn't matter if it has the yellow or not. All you need is the audio. But this is all I had at the moment, so just ignore the yellow. So, we're going to take the red and the white. You see down here? We're going to put the audio coming from the Sega CD. And you're going to do vice versa with the switch box. You're going to put the red in the switch box, as well as the corresponding white. And then, now, let's see about the Sega CD. Okay, so I've got the Sega CD and the Sega Genesis all hooked up. And you can play games, Sega CD games, like Sewer Shark, which we'll get to some games in a little bit. But the cool thing about the Sega CD that I find is because back in the day of the early 90s, CD players, if you can believe it or not, were expensive. Yes, they were once very expensive because they were the leading technology of the day. There were no iPods, and there were no MP3 players. There were no iTunes. There were no Spotify. There was nothing like that. There was only physical. There was either tapes or CDs, and CDs were the thing back in the day. So, let's pop this thing open, and we're going to, for an example, we're going to be using a CD from Listen Up Music, which is a day program for people with special needs. And this is by a band of theirs called the Slipstreaming Mondays. And I highly recommend you find them on Facebook and support them. They're really cool. So let's put the CD in. Turn on the power. And voila! Start button. And you'll come to a screen that looks like this. Alright, so before we get started, let's play some music. Set it to track 3, because that's the one I like. Now, the Sega CD is basically a low-budget competitor alternative to the Panasonic 3DO. And at first that sounds like not such a good idea, but I'll tell you, if you look it up, the Panasonic 3DO was a lot of money when it came out. I think it was close to $1,000. But so the Sega decided to make the Sega CD, and it has a lot of the same games on it. I mean, yes, they're of poorer quality, but it didn't matter because the games were just as fun. However, one thing that the Sega CD had was exclusives. So, isn't this cool, guys? You can use it as a CD player. So, but how about some gameplay? Let's hop into some of that. Now, one of the amazing things about the Sega CD is the amazing sound quality of the music. And Android Assault here shows that off perfectly. And just listen to it. It's amazing. And this is one of the games on the Sega CD that I would actually recommend if you can find it. It's called Android Assault, and it's a really fun shooter where you're a transformer of sorts. Really fun. But there's other fun games, like Sewer Shark.
Hey, relax. Pretend it's a game. Maybe it'll even be fun. Shoot the tubes, dog meat!
Now, in Sewer Shark, you're a sewer jockey, as you're called, and you ride around in this thing called the Whole Hog, which is like the equivalent of a sewer space shuttle. And you go around blasting what they call radigators and bats.
We got some hungry critters bearing 6, 12, 3.
And you notice how Catfish, that's the name of the voice, just said 3, 6, 12. Well, those arrows indicate what direction you're supposed to go, and you follow the pattern called out by Catfish. Otherwise, you'll crash. Now, this is the game that actually originally came with the Sega CD system, and it's very often looked down upon as being a bad game, but I would beg to differ. This is actually a very fun game. But there's more. The real reason you should buy a Sega CD is called Sonic CD. And this, hands down, is not only the best Sega CD game, it is also, hands down, the best Sonic game ever made. The only one that could come close to this, possibly, would be Sonic Adventure, but I believe this is still the better game. And whether a Sonic game begins with an awesome music video. This is back when Sonic was awesome, guys. Listen to that music.
Gotta go fast!
Sonic was once cool, guys. But after this, and Sonic 3D Blast, he pretty much became uncool. So, is Sega CD an awesome system? So yeah, the Sega CD is an awesome system. This was actually the first CD player that I owned, and what got me into CDs. I mean, sure, back in the day I had to have people burn me CDs because I didn't have a lot of money as a kid, and so, but every time I had a CD, I would put it in this thing. And the sound quality when you hook this thing up, because it has stereo coming out of it, if you hook it up to speakers, is amazing. So, you definitely want to pick one of these up. And even if it's broken, by the fact that it's not getting any power, I would still pick it up, because it's an easy fix. But I'll show you how to fix it in another video. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content. I'll see you soon.